Hey there. Welcome to Product Marketing Maestros, Tales from the Front Lines. I'm your host, Nitin Karthik. As Director of Product Marketing and a top product marketing voice, I've always found that real world case studies are the true litmus test for the effectiveness of any product marketing strategy. And that is why in this show, we dive into the minds of industry titans as well as rising stars, unpacking their expertise in action packed episodes that showcase the power of product marketing through real world case studies. And today, my friends, we are joined by product marketing maestro Phil Voulgaris in Boston, Massachusetts. Phil is a contract role. That's what he does right now at Google. And he leads product marketing for their app development platform, Firebase. Phil is a full stack product marketer who thrives at the intersection between hardware and software. And he's probably one of the few product marketers who has launched and sunsetted both hardware and software products. He has a wide range of experience that informs his product marketing thinking. And it includes serving 6 years as a Navy intelligence officer, working as a corporate strategist, working in B2B sales, and even performing as an improv comedian. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute honor. Let's welcome Phil Voulgaris. Phil, welcome to the show.
Nitin, thanks for having me. And I'm really happy to be talking about a very passionate topic of mine, which is product sunsetting. So happy to be here.
Excellent, excellent. We talk a lot about launching products. We don't talk enough about sunsetting products. So I think this is going to be an excellent topic. So Phil, as we promised the audience, we're going to talk about sunsetting products and we'll use the ABC framework. So we'll talk about the antecedents, what were the prior challenges. We'll talk about some of the behaviors, what were some of the actions you took, and we'll talk about the conclusion, how things played out. So with that, tell us, Phil, what were the antecedents? What were some of the prior challenges in these sunsetting products?
Yeah, no, and like before even beginning there, I think it's important to just state like why am I passionate about product sunset? And you kind of alluded to it, right? I'd argue that as a product marketing industry, we've completely over-rotated on the launch side of our jobs, right? There's no shortage of launch checklists and templates that product marketers can access. But for whatever reason, when it comes to the decision about whether or not to sunset a product or feature, many product marketers are really confused about where to start. And there's one thing I can guarantee to this audience is that every product has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so let's talk about the end, right? And so I like to talk about a time where I was a hardware product marketer. And I was in a situation where we had about 20% of our customer base on our first generation devices. And we're trying to determine how best to migrate these remaining customers to our new device portfolio. Do we do a sunset? Do we not do a sunset? This was kind of an open question. Now, whether you're in a hardware or a software role, the decision to sunset a product really comes down to making a business case for it. So I had to make the business case as to why we needed to potentially sunset these first-gen devices for our customers. Now, when putting the business case for a sunset together, there are a few key questions and concepts you need to walk through to help you make that determination. And I'll walk through a couple. One is around strategic alignment. Does the existing product or feature align with the overall strategic direction the company is trying to take? Another one is problem obsolescence. Does it solve a problem that was important, but maybe is no longer significant? Is a problem that product or feature solving for still resonate with your customer base? There's also tech obsolescence. Is it built on old technology that is difficult to maintain? That could lead to a lot of tech costs. Do you have incompatibility issues? Does it work or not work with other products or new products you might have coming down the pipeline? Is it buggy? Does it underdeliver on value? Or just have too many issues? And so as you start to think through these questions, you begin to develop the business case. And for me, in this particular example, I started to realize that the devices were, one, they're built on old technology. They were essentially stuck in an old Android operating system. Thus, the tech costs were very high to maintain these products. That also led to a ton of incompatibility issues with current products and new products we had coming down the pipeline, which led to, again, the devices being very buggy. Another thing we saw that I actually measured was that the net promoter score for the customer base that was using these old devices was actually lower, much lower than the customer base average as a whole. And so you put this all together and you start to develop that business case to sunset these devices. And it became very clear that that was the right thing to do. And that was ultimately the recommendation that myself, along with my product and engineering counterparts, made based on going through the analysis and putting together the business case.
Absolutely fabulous. I love this, because this is something that I think a lot of folks in the audience may be wrestling with, right? Like we talked about, everyone wants to launch products. Sunsetting is a more challenging thing. So wonderful. So thank you, Phil, for laying out the antecedents. Now let's talk about the behavior. So tell us, given all these challenges, what were some of the actions that you engaged in?
Yeah, now, and first of all, you're right. I think if you're going to be in the game long enough, at some point you are going to sunset a product. So I hope, if you haven't done it now, you will do it at some point in your career. And once you make that decision, you're going to sunset a product or a feature, to me, now the fun really begins. You are now faced with the challenge of telling your customers that you are going to take something away from them. And that's why I think sunsetting can be a very difficult to manage, because you are essentially introducing a churn moment to your customer base. You're giving your customers a reason, potentially an excuse, to rethink their relationship with you and look at other options. But what I've learned is that the challenge of sunsetting a product shouldn't change how you operate and think about a sunsetting campaign. You should treat it just like any other marketing campaign or any other marketing message that you're sending out there. You know, when you think about crafting a marketing campaign and the messaging, what do? You segment, you target, you maybe test different messages, you see what works, you see what doesn't, and then you scale. And we very much took that tack for this particular sunset comms. We didn't blast one thing to everybody at one moment in time. We segment on our customer base. And doing that made us realize that not everyone's the same. Some customers had hundreds of these devices in their operations and really relied on them. And others had one and barely turned it on. How you treat those customers will be very different. And the message you send to those and the hand-holding that you do to those customers will be very different. So that's one thing I would definitely encourage. Segment your customer base when you're doing the sunsetting and figure out who's using it a lot, who's using it a little, how are they using it, and that can change your message. And with messaging, we actually tested messaging, how we message this sunset, the language we use. We did some A/B testing to see what drove the action we wanted, which was in this case to upgrade the device. So again, I would encourage this audience when you're going down this path, you don't need to take an all-in-one approach, which I think far too many people do when it comes to these types of things. Segment, test, iterate, and then I think you'll see better outcomes for these types of initiatives.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I love how you broke it down, where think of this as another marketing campaign and do all of the things that you have to do. Wonderful. So thank you for that. So now bring it home, Phil. So we've talked about the antecedents, we've talked about the behaviors. Now the conclusion, how can we expect some of these situations to play out? How did they play out in your experience?
Yeah, we try to measure success in a few different ways. And, I alluded to it earlier, right? We actually measure the net promoter score of this customer base, both before and after the upgrades. And we saw that net promoter score went significantly up post upgrade. And to us, that showed that people were much happy with the new devices. We also measured churn, and we had a very realistic expectation. Like, we weren't going for zero. That's probably near impossible. But we had a very reasonable goal of just keeping it within our historical norm. And we saw that churn was actually below that. So again, a win. And then you think about, the reasons for why we made the decision to sunset. We gained more strategic alignment. Our tech costs went down. We had less service calls. And so if you're thinking about measurement from the onset, you can very clearly create some very clear metrics that measure the success of a product sunset. One other thing I would mention is that working on this type of project really elevates the product marketing function, right? You're working cross-functionally with product, engineering, customer service, in this case, supply chain, just to name a few. And it gets people to rethink the role of product marketing, how it's not just about marketing, but really about being a strategic partner in how the business operates. And for me personally, that was a positive outcome of the initiative. It's something I keep my eye out on when I'm in product marketing roles. What are the projects? What are the decisions that I can really influence that will give me a seat at the table and show people that product marketing is a real strategic function at the company? And so that was another outcome of this that kind of benefited me, but I also think product marketing as a whole.
Wow, wow, absolutely fabulous advice. So folks, there you have it. Take all this advice and definitely reach out to Phil. So Phil, tell us, if people wanted to learn more about you, where can they find out more?
Yeah, I would just encourage people to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active there and pretty responsive, and always happy to talk shop on product sunsetting or all product marketing topics. And I guess, what I've got next as a PMA ambassador, I've got a few articles I'm thinking about writing right now. One is on the potential benefits that come with taking on contract work as a product marketer. So you might see an article about that coming out soon. And the other is I do think we're actually heading into a renewed interest into the hardware product marketing function with new chipsets coming out to support AI use cases. I think there might be more of a need for hardware product marketing expertise. And so I might be writing about that in the coming months as well. But yeah, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. And again, thanks for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Excellent advice. So thank you once again, Phil. Folks, definitely reach out to Phil, whether you're looking to sunset products or you're doing hardware or anything else. Excellent product marketer right here. And my friends, armed with that knowledge, let's make the magic happen.